Well, if you think in terms of therapy, or a team having a meeting, or a staff meeting in an organization, it's has a particular agenda. It has a particular purpose. It usually has a particular structure and a particular time structure. Whether you're thinking in terms of a 50-minute, 60-minute hour, or you're thinking in terms of number of meetings for a team or a number of sessions for therapy. And that's not to say that everyday dialogue, everyday conversations don't have a structure, because I think everything has a structure. It's just we have ideas about what structure is. And so for me, they're just different kinds of structures, and some things are more structured in the way that we usually think of structure, and some things are less structured. So what someone might call anything goes, I don't think of it as anything goes. It's a particular structure. So everyday dialogues, in other words, new meanings can come from everyday dialogues, from informal conversations. We're just not, I think, as often aware of that as we are when we're in a more purposeful conversation, like a therapy conversation or a team meeting, where we come together for some assumed or we think agreed upon reason for meeting and what we hope to accomplish. And when I say everyday dialogue or everyday conversation, I'm not talking about just speaking and talking with another person, but you can pick up a book. You can pick up a magazine on the back of an airplane seat and be engaged with the author. And all of a sudden something strikes you that invites you into this particular kind of conversation with the author or with yourself. And you might find yourself making notes on the page, or making notes on the paper, or just carrying a thought around with you that you continue to think about and edit or twist it and turn it. The other thing about dialogue and everyday conversation, and whether you're talking about therapy dialogue or everyday conversation, there's a lot written about dialogue these days, particularly in the organization and business world. And if you'll notice that a lot of those writings really present methods or structures I won't say scripts, but something that's pre-structured. In other words, dialogue has steps. This is what you do first, this is what you do second, this is how you do this. And for me, dialogue it has to be more flexible than that. I think you can say there's some features of dialogue, but that each gathering of people, each reason for meeting, it's going to be different, and I think that it needs to be more natural and more spontaneous. Did I send y'all something called Tips for Dialogue? Tips for collaborative dialogue. Yeah, so I have that. I'll have to put that up on my website. I don't have that on there. But it's just some things that I put together because people are always asking about dialogue and how do you engage in dialogue. And I say, well, I don't have techniques and I don't have steps, but I have things that I think are important to think about in terms of what one might want to do and what one might not want to do. And so I call those, I don't know, maybe tips for inviting collaborative dialogue, something like that.
And why are they not techniques? Why am I thinking about it?
Because they aren't things that you do over and over again. They aren't things that you take with you. They're more assumptions.
Okay.
They're things that orient you as to how you are going to be there and be present and interact with the other person that you hope more rather than less invites a more generative or transforming conversation. Also connected to that, I just said the word transforming, so I'll say something about that, is that I began using in my talking and my writing transformation and then transforming, and I used both of those words, rather than change, because I think one of the things that we often don't do is that we often don't pause and step back and reflect on some of these concepts or words that we've inherited over the generations of therapists and theories and schools of therapy, whether it's family therapy or group therapy or individual therapy. And we just kind of take them on. So I'll pick on change. That's a word that over the years has developed multiple meanings, but one meaning that a lot of therapists shares is that people change. They change from this to this. There's also the idea that the therapist is an agent of change, as if one person can change another person, that you can influence another person, or that you can instructively interact with another person in that way. And so I really wanted to find a way to make a distinction in terms of what I was talking about in therapy and what I hope happens in any work event that I'm involved in, and that is that we begin to be in this more generative and transforming relationship and process with each other. And that alongside that I'm as influenced by them as they are influenced by me, and that I am apt to be transformed in some way by that conversation and encounter as they are, even though it's the agenda's primarily theirs and for them, that I can't think of myself as separate from it.